Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm excited to talk to Annette Morris today. She is a renowned psychotherapist, certified life coach, mindset, business coach, best-selling author, and speaker with a mission to empower women to monetize their passions and create 6 to 7 figure income generating businesses. Hey, Annette, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. And you?
I'm great. Thank you. The very first thing that I would love to know is, how did you get into psychotherapy, first of all, and then into coaching?
So I think things like psychotherapy and being a coach are a calling, right? And so I can remember always, like when I was young, people would always gravitate to me. And if I say, "Hey, how you doing?" they would literally tell me how they were doing. And it was heavy as a young person, to the point where I can recall one of my friends saying, "Why do people always do you that? Like literally they tell you their whole life story as soon as they meet you." I was like, that's really heavy, right? And as a teenager, it is heavy. You don't realize like that's a calling until you get older. And so as I got older and I was going through school, I realized I loved psychology, which led me to take psychology courses and pursue an undergrad degree in psychology. And then the next level from that was pursuing a master's degree in counseling so that I can be a therapist, just to kind of help people reframe the way that they're thinking, reframe their minds, and then kind of live with whatever it is that's going on in life. Typically, as a therapist, we deal with mental illness, but I'm more like the mindset coaching side, because it allows me to deal with a broader range of people and just kind of reframing our thoughts and our minds so that we can live whatever level of life that we desire to live.
That is awesome. And what are the types of people that you usually work with that are coming to you?
So for coaching, I mainly serve as mompreneurs. So moms that are also entrepreneurs that are looking to either start a business or scale their businesses up so that they can work full time in their business as a full time entrepreneur. And so it's a lot. Most of my clients are like first generation entrepreneurs, so they've never seen it done before. They literally need a blueprint, so they may have the skill or the skill set to do whatever it is that they're doing in their business, but they don't have the business acumen. They don't know how to run a business. All of those things, or how to monetize it, and then how to leverage the streams of income in their business to support their personal lives and the legacies that they want to leave for their children. And so we walk them through that entire process, like converting what they're passionate about into a business. Once we convert it into a business, then we help them to identify other streams of revenue that they can add to the business so that the business has long-term sustainability. And then from there, we teach them how to leverage those streams of income to support their lifestyle, the personal lives that they have, and the legacies that they want to leave for their kids.
I love that because that is so similar to what I'm trying to do. My personal mission as well, helping women, female coaches primarily, not just build a business and earn money. That has never been kind of the thing that I gravitated towards, like money itself and all these external things. But I wanted to help people to build something very lasting, a legacy, as you said, not only for myself but for my clients as well, right? And
Yes.
I also know that you are a best-selling author, and I love people who are into writing and love telling their stories, because that's also something that we would have in common, even though I'm not a best-selling author. What book or chapter inside of your book or books did you enjoy writing the most, and why?
So I've had 3 books that were best-selling books, and then one of the books from last year actually made it to an international bestseller. But my very favorite book was my first book that wasn't even a bestseller. It was just my very first book. The very first book was entitled "Conquering the Enemy." So enemy was spelled Eneme, talking about the enemy of self, right? And so in most instances, it's never like, I know a lot of times we hear conversations and people say, "Oh, this person is a hater," and all of those other things or whatever. But what we have to realize when we think about it really deeply, it's never really an external hater that deters us from accomplishing our goals in life, right? It's that little voice on the inside that be like, "Girl, I don't think you could do that. Well, if we do that, we gonna fit." It's not like, because when we hear like an external hater be like, "Oh, you can't do that," like we pump ourselves up and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna show them that I can get it done," right? And then we prove them wrong. Like we strive to prove them wrong. But that limited voice on the inside that tell us, "Oh, you can't do it, don't try, and this is that," and then we just don't do it. We never prove that little voice wrong. So it's us overcoming the enemy of self more than it is in any external enemies, right? And so that book was really, that was the book that I most enjoyed writing, because it talks about how we have to fight that enemy of self on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, especially when you know you're destined to do something great. But then that little voice on the inside keeps saying, oh, if we do this, this gonna happen. Because the little voice on the inside always has the what ifs, but the what ifs never sound like anything positive. It's never like, what if we make $1 million doing this? Or what if we able to leave it's never like that. It's always something negative and about failure and it's about demise and destruction, just everything, right? And so we have to learn how to reframe what that little voice says, or learn how to fight in spite of what the little voice says, so that we are not being impaired or allowing fear to cripple us to the point where we never manifest our life goals or life's dreams. So that was actually my favorite book to write.
And I think that ties closely into the difference between confidence and core confidence, because when you just have like this artificial or external confidence that you play out, you might sound defensive in a way when someone says, oh, you will not ever achieve XYZ, right? But when you have core confidence, like anybody could come and tell you, you're weak, you sound like a robot, you will never accomplish anything, you look ugly, or whatever they have to tell you, right? And that might be the truth from their perspective, but if you have core confidence, like you can say, all right, I acknowledge your perspective. Like everybody has the right to have their own perspective, you know, or their own filters, right? I cannot take that away from them. Like, who am I to do that? But if I have core confidence, like I can stand my own woman, right? I can know exactly who I am in my perspective. And only that counts, because only I have my vision, right? Only I strive to achieve certain things. That person who deems me weak, stupid, or whatever does not have the same vision that I have. So they will never see what I see and try to accomplish what I try to accomplish. So unpacking those mindset things and beliefs that we have, or those negative things and this negative voice that we sometimes have, is so important to do. And what are some other aspects that you also incorporate into your work? Because I know that mindset is not enough to get someone really to achieve their goals.
So mindset, it starts with the mind. So literally like reframing your thoughts. But like you have to reinforce that with like positive affirmations. So I tell people daily, like mindset work is not something that you do once. It's not a one and done, right? It's never a one and done. You're gonna have to work on your mindset absolutely every day, right? Supporting your mind, de-stressing your body, de-stressing your mind, organizing your thoughts, all of these things. These are things that you should do on a daily basis, right? So the mindset work, affirmations, reaffirming yourself, building your confidence, these are things that you have to do every day. A lot of times what we do is what we allow to happen is we allow fear to creep in, and then fear deters us. But you have to realize, like, some things you're going to have to do with fear. You're going to have to carry fear with you in some instances, right? It's the only way we build confidence in our ability to do certain things. We do it in fear, we do it, and then once we get to the other side, we're like, oh, you know what? That wasn't as complicated as I thought it was. It wasn't as fearful as I thought it was. We impose fear in a lot of situations where it's really not warranted. But we do, right? So a lot of times you're going to have to do it in fear, and knowing that the only way to build your confidence and ability to do a thing is take one step at a time in it and do it, whatever it is, right? So even if it's something big that you have to accomplish, I tell my clients, break everything. If it's something big, break it down into bite-sized pieces, right? So I'll use, for example, if you had a goal of losing 50 pounds, right? Like you could keep telling yourself, oh, I got to lose 50 pounds. And then in your mind, that sounds like, oh, that's a lot. We ain't gonna be able to do that. Or you can tell yourself, hey, I need to lose 1 pound a week for 50 weeks, right? It's easier when you break it down to bite-sized pieces because it makes it more attainable to your mind. And so now the mind is convinced, oh, okay, I can lose 1 pound. All I have to do is have a calorie deficit, exercise, XYZ. Oh, okay, well, we can lose 1 pound, right? So that makes it feel more doable, right? So you have to utilize some strategies to convince your mind that, hey, we can accomplish this goal. And then after 50 weeks, you may have the 50-pound weight loss, right? If you don't eat donuts and all the other things that will stop it, right? But however, if you break it down, if you break bigger goals and down into bite-sized pieces, it builds up your confidence. Because hey, once you get to the 10-pound weight loss, oh, okay, I lost 10 pounds. Now I have the confidence to be able to keep pushing and get to that 50-pound mark, right? But if you never do the thing, you're still going to be wrestling with fear. You're going to be wrestling with doubt. You'll never build your confidence, and then you'll never accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish. So understand that the mindset work is something that has to be done on a consistent basis. It's never one and done. You have to do something to work on your mind, your mental health, your self-care on a daily basis. And I encourage you to do something on that level every day.
And you mentioned something quite important. You mentioned fear, which is an emotion, right? So people oftentimes, I feel, are putting everything in one bucket and call it mind or mindset, even though there are two different things that we kind of need to look at, right? There are the thoughts and beliefs that we have, and there are the emotions. And people think, once I get rid of the fear, I will be confident. But being confident is a decision, right? It is not an emotion. And you will, no matter what you do, you will always walk with emotions, right? You will never get rid of your emotions, right? And you can be confident and still have a little bit of fear left, right? And in the end, fear is only an indicator of several things, right? One of which is maybe the lack of knowledge, right? If you fear something, then it is unknown, right? You don't know enough about it. So go ahead and find out what you don't know, right? And then it becomes more comfortable. You will know what you're about to step into, so you will be able to have less fear. But fear and emotions will always be our companions, negative and positive. So that does not rob us of the opportunity or possibility to build confidence, right? So I think people need to let go of that concept to get rid of emotions completely, or the negative emotions completely, but befriend them, realize what they really are. They are your friends. They are kind of like the alarm system in your apartment, right? If someone tries to break in, the alarm system goes off. You will not say, "Oh my God, I will ignore it," right? Or I will keep sleeping. No, it tells you, "Hey, wake up! Something's going on. Come on, go check it." You know? And so we need to kind of listen to that, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And I want to know,
you will never just completely get rid of fear. I just don't think so. And I shared that like with a friend, because I've been a motivational speaker probably I've been speaking since I've been in elementary school, but doing this professionally at least 20 years. And she's like, "You've been doing this so long, you do so well." And I'm like, "But I'm always afraid until I touch the mic and say my first 5 words. After that, then I'm good. But I'm always afraid leading up to that, right?" And so I just don't think that anything that's bigger than you, you'll ever do it and say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna do it without fear." No, just do it in fear, and then it gets more comfortable, right? But yeah, I don't think you'll ever just detach from fear, ever.
And let's go back to your writing career. And I want to know, when did that start? When did you find the inspiration and motivation to start writing books?
I published my first book in 2012. Yeah, in 2012. Yes, in 2012. And so at that point, I was just motivated to, again, write to help people to overcome their fears. I had just gotten into being a full-time entrepreneur, which was the scariest thing that I had ever done in my life. Transitioning from working full-time, because again, traditionally, I don't have anybody in my family that was an entrepreneur before me. I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have a rich uncle to lean on. It was literally like all faith, and overcoming the fear to step out and operate in what I'm passionate about based on what I know, and creating it into a business to generate the revenue that I saw that aligned with the lifestyle that I wanted for myself and my kids. That was the scariest thing that I could have done, right? And so I literally had to overcome the fear of, "Oh, if I leave this job, I'm not going to have any money." You know, all the fears that come along with you transitioning from being a full-time employee to a full-time entrepreneur. And so once I was able to overcome all of the obstacles affiliated with that was in my mind, and see myself in a successful business, I was like, "Oh, I feel like I can," you feel like you can conquer anything once you've conquered a fear that major, right? And so then I started correlating that with the thoughts that you have that's affiliated with walking into anything, right? And I'm like, you literally have to overcome your thoughts and overcome yourself in order to accomplish anything in life. If you're going into full-time entrepreneurship, if you're going into motherhood, if you're going to pursue a degree, if you're going to purchase a house, like it's all applicable to all of those areas. And that's kind of what led me into writing and publishing that first book.
I love that. That requires so much courage. And you mentioned motherhood, and I would like to go into that because I see so many women are rising from obstacles, so to speak, ever since COVID, of course, being mothers and at the same time growing their businesses. And if there was one thing that you would give them as kind of like an advice or tip, what would it be based on what you have learned as a mom and business owner?
Just striking a balance, right? Because one of the things that I realized when I first went into entrepreneurship, I worked a whole lot, right? Because we go into the mindset of when we transition, when we're an employee, we know when we're going to get paid, right? It's 1st and 15th, every other Friday, every Friday, whatever it is, right? We know when payday is going to be. So you have that confidence to know, hey, my check is going to hit the bank here. When you go into full-time entrepreneurship, if you don't work, you don't eat, right? If you don't hunt, you're not going to eat. So you don't know when you're going to get paid. And so I transitioned from being a supervisor of a social service agency because, again, my background, I'm a therapist. So I was supervising some therapists and social workers in a social service agency into being a full-time entrepreneur. So I went into like full hustle mode. Both of my children were in private school. I wanted to keep them in private schools. Wanted to make sure they still ate, even though I was, operating in what I felt like God called me to do. And I just went into hustle mode, like, okay, I got to do this. I know how to do this. And I started 3 different businesses. None of them aligned with one another. It was just 3 different businesses. And I can make money over here doing this. I can make money here doing this. And then I'm just all over the place. I was making money, making sure I paid their tuition, but I wasn't able to spend like ample time with them initially, right? And then almost burned myself out in the process, right? And so one of the things that I learned from there, because again, I almost hit the burnout wall, making sure you're taking care of yourself. So prioritizing self and self-care, make sure the kids are good. Are you going to spend adequate time? It's not about balance. Balance is not equal in my definition, right? So it's not like you're going to spend 8 hours with the kids, 8 hours in the business, 8 hours in XYZ. Quality time, right? Quality time with the kids, enough time in the business so it generates revenue. If you're married, enough time with husband, but definitely making sure you make time for yourself. So never put yourself at the bottom of the list, right? Make sure you are the priority. Start with you and then take care of everybody else, because you can't pour into anybody, your children, your husband, your spouse, whatever it is, if you're on empty. So start with you and then everybody else comes after that. And then a lot of times as mom, we feel guilty about taking care of ourselves. So we're going to take care of the kids. And then a lot of times we never get to us, and then we get to burn out. So you're not effective for anybody if you burn out, right? So prioritize you, and then everything else will be good.
I can relate so much to that because that's exactly how I also started out, hustle mode, like 24/7, right? And as you said, kids first, everything and everyone first, and me last, if at all,
Right.
And the funny thing is, as long as I was neglecting proper self-care, and I don't mean making nails and having my hair done and all that stuff, I don't even count that to self-care, but really taking care of your mental health, of your emotional health, of your physical health, right? Until I didn't do it, and as long as I didn't do it, my business was not flourishing. And that was such an eye-opening experience for me that was so easy to flip, to start doing it. But it took so long to overcome that and to actually find that switch. Where is it? Where is it? Where can I find it? In what room is it? Please show me, And I tried to find that switch, Once I found it, it was like, oh my God, it's so
right.
easy.
I wish I had been done this, right?
It's so funny. And afterwards, right? You can laugh about it, but getting there actually takes so much work, and which is why it's so important to have like people around you who push you towards that direction, right? Who tell you what self-care actually looks like, who tell you what mindset actually means, and how you can actually take care of yourself in order to grow a proper business, right? That is it not in survival mode, but in thriving mode long term, right? Because as you said, if you burn out, like what good will it do for your kids, for example, if you only can sleep in your bed because you are so tired of everything, right? No good will come out of it. So And women need to understand that, especially if they are starting out. And I have a lot of listeners and clients who are just starting out or they are planning to start their businesses. Please don't ignore this point. Make sure that you really start, as Annette said, with yourself. And then you prioritize your family, because what I also found is in the beginning, I tended to once I figured out the steps that I needed to do and everything was kind of running, oh, money's coming in, super, I figured it out. But self-care was kind of struggling and was kind of burned at the bottom, not even paying attention to it. Is that I put more time into my clients than into my family. And that is something that I don't like to admit, but I have to admit, because I want to spare some ladies some real serious stress and a nerve-wracking heartache. You should never do that. If you have a family, if you have kids, you have to prioritize them. You come first, and then comes family, and not your work. Even if you love your job, even if you love your clients, which I do as well, by the way, right? It's passion, purpose, what I do, right? But still, it has to come first, because I cannot be a good leader in my definition if I cannot even lead my own family, right? If I don't prioritize, how can I lead them if I don't prioritize them?
Correct. Absolutely. And then setting those boundaries, because again, sometimes you'll have clients, if you set the tone to say like, oh, you can call me at any time, then they're going to call you at any time, right? You have to set the boundaries. Listen, my coaching hours are between the hours of 9 and 5. Those are the only times that I answer phone calls. Any emergency, I can't help you in an emergency anyway. Like, that's for 911, right? In coaching, we don't have emergencies. It's not like therapy or anything, right? So this is life coaching, business coaching, whatever it is. It's not a 911. It can wait between 9 and 5. After 5 or after 6, whatever your hours are, after 6, then that's my time for my family, and I'm going to allocate that time to them, right? So you have to set the parameters to say, these are the times that I'm going to answer phone calls, establish boundaries. And again, even like if you have a spouse or whatever, this is the time that I allocate to my coaching clients, XYZ. Please don't call me during this time because I can't answer, because I'm coaching people, right? Because that's the money that you bring into the business to bring into the household, right? So you have to establish boundaries with everybody, the family, the clients, and everything, and then establish boundaries for yourself time to be like, this is my time for me. I can't find your wallet, sir. I don't know where your keys are. Children, listen, whatever it is, right? So you have to establish even boundaries for yourself to have people respect your me time, your family time, your coaching time, your business time, whatever it is. But you definitely have to establish boundaries.
That is so important, because people will step over what you let them step over, right? If there are no boundaries, of course they will walk there, right? They will call you in the middle of the night or late in the evening, presenting any kind of, maybe not an emergency, but a problem, a thing that they want you to solve for them.
Yes.
And you kind of have to say no. I will take care of it then and then in my opening hours, whatever. Because it will stress you out so much, and it will decrease actually the trust that they have in you, because you are allowing your own boundaries to be weakened, so to speak. You let them, they are muddy waters, so to speak. It's not clear, right? And a leader, I think, and this is what I strive to teach my clients and myself, of course, to always lead with excellence, not just anyhow, but with excellence. And I think for excellence to be recognized, we need boundaries across all the places, not like a dictator or anything, but like firm and logical and good boundaries, actually positive boundaries that allow the other person to actually recognize me as a leader. And I think for us coaches, it's so important to be recognized as a leader, because in the space right now, in the social media space, there are so many other people. You can call them competition, even though I don't believe in the traditional definition of it so much, but there are a lot of people that you are standing against, so to speak, and a potential client could decide to go with either one of them. So they don't recognize you as the leader by the things that you say, by the boundaries that you set, by the values that you communicate, and by the structure and the process that you present to them, how you work and what kind of results you can present to them. Then kind of your trust level is being weakened, right? You cannot build trust on those things, right? If everything is wishy-washy and like muddy waters and nothing is really clear, like people need incredible clarity, especially if they are in pain. right? Clients are coming to you, they are in tremendous pain, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical pain, right? And in that state, people need almost childlike clarity and boundaries. It's what I have found. And so depending on what kind of clients you're serving, right, as a psychotherapist, I can imagine you have clients that have more urgent problems or more difficult problems than, let's say, a business coach, right? That is generally someone who is dealing with less emergency type of problems, right, where you have to show up in a different way. And I think you have learned that from that space and niche, right? The psychotherapy helped you to kind of create those boundaries and processes and how to actually work on a professional level up, because I can see that, I can feel that.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And I'm sure it also helped you to become such a successful speaker as well, right? And can you show the audience and myself, did you experience any type of challenges becoming a speaker? Or was it all easy for you?
No, it definitely wasn't all easy. It's still not all easy. So being a speaker, I love being a speaker. Like I said, I've been doing this professionally about 20 years, but I've been a speaker since I was in elementary school. The challenge is traveling and speaking when you have children at home, right? And so now I've finally gotten to the point where both of my children are adults. My baby boy made 18 in March and graduated high school in May. So now I'm able to travel more to speak. Like I just secured a speaking engagement a couple of days ago or whatever. It's in Maryland in a couple of months. I would travel, but I know that I could have done more and got more speaking opportunities. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be on the road that much away from my kids, all those type of things or whatever. So it's things that you kind of think about, like in parameters that you set in place as a mom, just to be like, I'll travel some, but I don't want to be to the extent where I'm always on the road, never know what's going on back home, never physically here for the kids, those type of things or whatever, right? So those are some of the challenges that you have as a mom, being a speaker and traveling and being an entrepreneur, all of those things, right? So I've kind of held myself back as a result of wanting to make sure that I'm not only there as a FaceTime mom, but I'm physically there at least most of the month. Like, so I would travel, most of the time I travel like once a month, and it'll be like 4 maybe 5 days or whatever, 5 days at max. But as a speaker, like, sometimes like you can have several speaking engagements back to back and be gone more than half the month if you really get into full-time speaking. I just didn't feel like that was suitable for my situation as being a mom, to be gone that often. So that was a challenge, as far as like securing different speaking engagements or whatever, which is no longer a challenge at this point because, both of my kids are adults. So those are some things that you just kind of factor into the equation when you're a mom and an entrepreneur and a speaker. But aside from that, just the confidence of charging your price. Like I had to go back and forth a little bit with this particular entity that contacted me to come in. They want me to speak on mental health and mental wellness for HR professionals, right? So stuff that they can bring back into their business for their employees. But they gave like a really low price, and I had to go back and be like, no, I prefer this particular price or whatever. So you just really have to kind of gain confidence even in your ask, right? What is your asking price? And just kind of stand on it. Some opportunities you may lose when you kind of challenge back and forth or whatever, because you have to just kind of understand the value that you present, the cost that it is. And if people are not going to value that particular price tag and who you are, then it's okay to say, listen, okay, I'm going to pass that opportunity by, because I know what I bring to the table. I know what I present, and be okay with losing some opportunities. But yeah, if they, as a speaker, it's a price that they, especially when you have experience as a speaker, it's a price that they should be paying you. And then if you feel uncomfortable with the low price that they're initially giving you, be okay with negotiating that price.
I think that's also something that a lot of female coaches are struggling with, especially in the beginning, the pricing thing, right? How to price the services, how to price their products, how to price their time, right? And what I feel is they oftentimes go to a solution that I went to myself in the beginning, of course, but quickly realized that this will not get me anywhere, right? So what they tend to do is they say, okay, this is what the average coach is charging in my position in the beginning, so I will charge the same, right? Or I will charge less, because who am I, right? I'm just starting out, even though they have like million credentials behind their backs, I'm just starting out online, so I should not charge a lot. But remember how many credentials you have, right? How much knowledge you have, how smart you are, and how able you are to guide clients through different types of problems, whether you've done that offline or online. Just because you are starting does not mean that you are a total newbie and absolutely incapable of doing anything, right? And it requires a lot of confidence and courage to actually go ahead and say, this is my price. If you cannot pay it, I'm sorry. Because and this is also something that I noticed in women particularly. They have such a big problem in demanding high prices or saying no to a client who may not be able to afford it. Oh, okay, I will do it half the price, but give me a testimonial for it. Or I do it for free just to have the testimonial. Like, where is this going to lead you in the end? Like, how do you address a client? How do you help a client that is struggling tremendously with pricing and the mindset is just so off in that department?
And so one of the things is you have to realize who your target audience is and make sure you're talking to that audience, right? And so target audience is more than just gender. You have to recognize like the income levels of this particular target audience, right? Are they married? What their marital status is? Are they parents? You know, it factors a lot into those particular equations. Geographically, where are they? All of these things, right? So that impacts a person's payability, right? Their ability to pay you whatever it is that you're charging. So let's just say if you are offering high-end coaching services, right? So I use, for example, like my 1 hour consult is $500 an hour, right? I'm not going to be marketing to somebody that works at McDonald's, that particular service, right? Because I don't believe they have the fluid revenue to be able to pay for those particular services. Neither is that my target audience. You can't talk to everybody and just hope that your message sticks, right? And hope that it resonates with somebody. You have to make sure you are positioned in front of a target audience that can afford to pay for your services and that need that, right? Because our businesses are based on filling a need, right? Who needs this particular service and can afford to pay for this particular service, right? That's who you should be talking to. And the issue is a lot of entrepreneurs just talk to everybody. But it's going to resonate with somebody. I'm just talking to. No, you have to go where that target audience is. So if this is a audience filled with, let's say, 6-figure mompreneurs, so that's typically my target audience, right? So 6-figure mompreneurs or whatever, right? With those particular coaching services, or especially high-end coaching services. Where are they located? Are they in a group on Facebook? Are they at a networking event that I'm going to attend? Will they be at this particular conference? Whatever it is, right? I have to find where they are so that, because my message will resonate with them better than it'll resonate with somebody that I know can't even afford a $50 bundle. You know what I mean? So you have to make sure you are communicating, because it's almost as if it's a language barrier at this point when you're talking to somebody that you know cannot afford the service that you have. And that's what causes us to start questioning ourselves, because we're talking to the wrong person. They're not comprehending what we're saying. They don't find the value in it because they can't afford it. And then we get discouraged and be like, well, maybe I need to change my price. No, maybe you need to move across the room and talk to somebody else. It doesn't mean you need to change your price, because you have the credentials, you have the knowledge, you have the history, you have the skill set, you have everything that you need to convert a person or change a person's life based on what it is that you're offering them. You just need to talk to the person that can afford to pay for it. Making sure you're talking to the right audience and making sure you are communicating with the proper target audience to as regards your pricing and the services that you're offering.
Right. I feel like a lot of people think that most people can't afford anything that I have to offer, and most people are poor. That's my impression, that people or female coaches, when they are starting out, think maybe because they came from that particular area, so to speak, or income level, right? I think they have a difficulty to understand that there are different income levels. Even though they know there is, they need to kind of be more aware of it, that there are indeed people who would, as you say, pay $500 for 1 hour consulting with you, right? Because they have the right income, they have the right mindset to know that this type of service will cost that money. And if it does not cost that money, then it's worth nothing, right? And lower a price tends to be the lower the value is. So the higher the price is, the higher the value is. And once again, I think that's another fear that women have a lot. Okay, if I price my services to 2K, for example, or 5K or 10K, right? One particular service. Then I have to provide humongous value, and I have to do this and that and 1,000 different things to like be worthy of those 10K. And I think this is something we need to clean up, right? You cannot believe that you, and even in the private lives of many women that I meet, it is also reflected in their relationships. They also think that if they are deserving of a man that would marry them, for example, they need to do this and that and 100 million things to be worthy of a man who would marry them. Right? I see a direct reflection in that as well.
Yeah, and this is true.
Yeah, and we need to make sure that these coaches understand that you don't have to do a million things. You just need to do one thing excellent, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
And excellence is actually valued much more than quantity, right? Excellence of one thing is valued much more than quantity. And you can see that across all fields. And one of the best examples is Bruce Lee. I feel that was, for example, one thing that opened my eyes back on my journey when I realized he was not the best fighter, but he trained one move a million times, so he became such an excellent fighter with that particular move that he could knock out anyone, even though he was not the strongest, not the fastest, and not the most bulky type of fighter, right? And this applies also to female coaches. And you said not only narrow down your target audience, but also narrow down your skill set. You don't have to do a million things, right?
Correct.
Especially in the beginning. I'm not saying you can never do many things. You can always do many things. But when you're starting out, please focus. And you mentioned that at the beginning, right? You started 3 businesses. Me as well. I started 3 businesses. It was all over the place, right? Because I was so passionate about so many things. But when you're starting, actually focus on one thing, become excellent with it, and then expand. Then you have opportunities to do more, right? And when I watch you talk, when I listen to you, you come across very confident and very capable. And I would love to know, is there anything, a personal habit that you incorporated in your life that helps you stay in that mind, stay in that level, and create that type of success that you have created for yourself?
So I have a daily consistent self-care routine. I wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, which is pretty early. Most people are like, 4 a.m. Yeah, 4 a.m. in the morning. It's become my habit over the last several years. So I start off the morning with prayer and with meditation. Then I follow up with my affirmations. After the affirmations, I either read an actual book or listen to a book on Audible. And then I get up and stretch. After I stretch, then I go to the gym and work out, right? So every day I am refilling myself at the very beginning of the day so that I know by the end of the day, I'm probably going to be depleted. I have clients I have to see. I have my kids. I have, all the things or whatever. Somebody's going to randomly call me throughout the day, whatever it is. And so it's okay for me to pour out of myself if I have refilled myself every morning. If I don't take the time necessary to refill myself every morning and then I try to start pouring out of myself, I'm going to be exhausted and drained, right? Because I'm pouring from an empty glass. It's just so much you can pull from yourself before you experience burnout, right? And I know that I cannot afford to burn out. Like I have an elderly mom that I take care of in addition to my kids. And if I exhaust myself and I burn out, then the whole family crumbles, right? And so because I have that level of responsibility, I have to make sure that I am in a good space mentally, physically, as less stress is on me as possible, because I'm responsible for making sure my clients are good, their businesses are elevating, in addition to who I am to my family. So every day I have to make sure I'm pouring into myself in order to be effective for them, for the world, for myself, for my business, and all the things. So yeah, I tend to work on myself every day.
That is also something that I found incredibly important. And we touched on that in the beginning, that unless you kind of place self-care as a priority into your daily routine, your business will not flourish. And I like what you said, to pour into yourself right in the beginning of the day. And it took me a while to figure that out as well. I used to do these kind of self-care things throughout the day and here and there whenever I found time. But what it actually does when you start out doing that in the morning is it fills you up differently than if you do it in the evening or in the middle of the day. It reaches a certain area of your brain, and the cells of all the cells in your body are actually receptive to that type of input, I feel, compared to doing this in the middle of the day when your mind is already occupied with a million things. Like we women, we have a million things on our minds, right? So in the beginning of the day, the mind is kind of empty, kind of like a baby, like a sponge. It can take in so many different things. So when we start with that, instead of taking the phone and checking messages and emails and all that stuff, don't do that. Like I did that for a long time. And when you actually don't do it and you allow your brain to actually wake up properly and give it time. And I love that you first, I think you mentioned you go first to pray, right? Was it to pray?
Pray, yeah.
So this gives your brain the ability to actually wake up properly without external stimuli, so to speak, that would divert the brain into the wrong direction. Because in the space of prayer, you are so connected with yourself, especially when you are doing this routinely for years and years. You create abundance in that moment, even though you will not see that abundance right away. You will not get $1,000 extra or $10,000 extra on that day, but it will compound over time, right? And this is something that people miss oftentimes, right? This compound effect, or the effect of compound, right? That these little blips and things that you do in the mornings where you fill yourself up will actually compound massively. And at some point, there will be this breakthrough point, right? And you have to sustain that routine, that self-care routine, even though you see no results just yet. Don't give up, because that curve will go up massively to the top once you stay at it, once you don't allow yourself to give up or dilute yourself. Oh, today I don't need prayer. I'm good, God. I'm good. You know, no, like,
no, you're not.
No, you're not. Like, you think you are, but you don't even know what the day is holding for you, right? What's coming at you. You don't even know, right? So you better prepare yourself.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like I was just telling a young lady, she was saying like she doesn't have a consistent self-care routine or whatever. Like, how does she get started? And she was trying to figure out how to squeeze it into her day. And I was telling her one of the things that I recommend is doing it at the very beginning of the day, because before I get out of my bed, I lay there, I meditate, I pray, this is that or whatever, right? Because that allows me to recalibrate mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? So I get my whole self in alignment. And then I let my feet touch the floor and do everything else. One of the things that I realized, like trying to squeeze it into the day, if I get started with my day, because I've woken, there's very few times that I wake up late, right? I don't know what has to happen for me to wake up late, but if I wake up late, I feel like, ooh, I'm feeling rushed or whatever, right? So I'll jump out of bed or whatever, because most of the time my body automatically wakes up about 10 minutes to 4. So I know that I can remember one time that I woke up late, and I don't even know what happened that had me to wake up late that time, but I felt like, I don't have time to do my meditation or whatever. I got to get up. I got to get out the bed. I got to make sure my child get up, get ready for school. This was before he was out of school. And that whole day, my inside felt like it was doing this, like racing the whole day, right? And I was like, well, let me try to pause about lunchtime and meditate, right? But what I started feeling like was that was almost like when a car is going downhill and you trying to stop a car from going downhill, because your mind is already in 20 different directions. You done already start doing so much. So try to pause in the middle of all of that, you still really don't get it in, right? Because your mind is still like, oh, we don't have time for this. We got to do this. We got to do that. No, if you do that at the very beginning of the day before that mind starts really, really going, it helps you to recalibrate, get yourself together, get your thoughts together, centralize yourself or whatever, and then be better prepared for the day, as opposed to trying to squeeze that in the middle of the day. Like, that really sucked. And that told me, like, yeah, don't do this again, because that's not effective. Not effective at all.
What I just realized is also when you do it in the morning, when you are kind of relaxed, there's no stress, because hopefully you are relaxed after sleeping, right? Some people are still stressed after sleeping. Well, let's say you are not stressed and you are in that relaxed state. You actually practice to be patient. You practice to be connected. You practice to be kind, hopefully, to have empathy for yourself and for everyone else that you care about. And what that does is also, let's say in the middle of the day, there is any type of crisis, right? Whether with your child, with a client, or anything where you get stressed out. In a stressed out mood or situation, to calm yourself down without the practice in the morning, it is actually harder. But once you've done that in the morning already, your body just remembers, oh, I've done that today already. I know how to do it, because you have to start the day at, like, the practice starts at 0 in the day, right? You cannot say, oh, I practiced that 10 days ago. No, your body actually, unfortunately, remembers only what you start in the beginning of the day. So whatever however you want to go through the day, you have to practice that in the morning. So if you want to stay calm whenever your child does XYZ, or there's a emergency, a stressful situation, a client is blowing up on you, and you want to remain professional, you have to practice that in the beginning.
Correct.
And also what I love, what you also said that you are listening to podcasts or any type of books, and you kind of have a different type of input compared to prayer. You also prepare your professional mind in the morning to meet the day, to meet all the obstacles and all the challenges that will come for you as a coach, right? Because, like, we have problems too, right? We have challenges too, right? We have to meet them in a very professional way. We cannot let ourselves go all of a sudden because of XYZ. So it does so much, but so little, not enough people are doing that, actually. They are not cherishing that enough, and they seem to not be motivated enough to at least try it out, to have that type of specific morning routine, right?
Yeah. And they need to infuse it. Like, I strongly encourage it. Like, we have, just like so many young people are having strokes and heart attacks and all of the things, because we don't take enough time to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually, right? The heart can only take so much. The brain can only take so much before it's like, this is enough, right? We have to sit down and figure out how to de-stress our bodies, release a lot of the stuff that we're holding on to. Like, whatever that takes, we have to do that on a consistent basis, because again, the mind and body is only going to take so much before it shuts down and takes it for itself, however it has to do that, right? And so we have to start prioritizing our self-care, and not like, and being way more intentional about it than we are, as opposed to like trying to just squeeze it in a day, or maybe I'll take 10 minutes here. No, we have to be intentional about it and prioritize it. Let that be the first thing that you do before you take care of anybody else. Take care of yourself. That has to be done.
When you remember back now and stretch out your whole life in your memory, is there one moment that you can remember that touched your heart the most?
A moment that touched my heart the most, probably when I became a mother.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah, when I became a mother, it just shifted my mindset, right? Like, into knowing that I'm responsible for another whole human being's life. That made me definitely change my life and aspire to do more, because again, I want to be the first example that they see on doing something positive and changing their life and living in a way that I want them to live. I don't want to tell them to live a particular life and I'm doing something else. I want them to be able to mimic that, right? And also to see, like, I believe that in order to leave a legacy, you have to live a legacy, right? So the way that I live, I want them to see that as, oh yeah, my mama, she did this, she started her own business, she graduated college, she did this or whatever, but she enjoyed her life too. So she had like balance, right? I don't want them to buy into like society views of how you should be, and you need to go to college and get a job and all. I don't want them to believe that. I want them to live a life that's fulfilling to them, whatever fulfilling looks like to them. And so it was imperative that I not be a hypocrite and tell them to do one thing and do something else. I want to live the legacy that I want to leave for them.
Absolutely love that. And where can people actually find you if they feel inspired to work with you through this interview?
So you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram. Both of my personal pages are Annette J Morris, MA. My website is www.goal, Getter, GETTER, forever, one word.com, goalgetterforever.com. If you want to shoot me an email, goalgetterllc@gmail.com. My business page is business on Instagram is goal_getter_university, and on Facebook is Goal Getter LLC.
And of course, I will leave all the links for my listeners in the description below. Thank you, Annette. Such a reviving and eye-opening conversation with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you so much for having me.